What's up, Latin learners? We have a special surprise for you today. We are going to take you through our world and share some fun background information on our process, how we've come up with some builds, and then share some fun stories and shenanigans that we've had along the way. And I have a special guest who's going to be joining us. Come on in.
Hello! This is going to be so much fun!
Yes, me and my sister are going to walk you through our world, talk about some fun things, and I think you're going to enjoy it. Let's go! So when we started building, we kind of started everything from scratch, from our own ideas. We started this whole place just from a little hole in the ground base. It was pretty small.
It was very small.
So how did we go from there?
Well, we found that hole and we just kept having ideas of ways to expand. We're like, oh, this will be cool, this will be cool. And we just kind of kept going for it. This one was entirely from our minds. This is before we started looking up tutorials and other master builders inspiration.
Yes, started learning from them.
But
right, and right now it looks almost as if we had just planned this whole thing from the start, but we really just started with that little hole, and then we added the one addition with the living room and the fireplace and the kitchen, and then we added this big building here.
It did take quite a few tries, this big building. We couldn't quite figure it out.
Yeah,
for the first couple
we
of
had
tries.
Several different renditions of this building that didn't quite work out. But, you know, we kept on trying, we found something that worked, and now I think it looks great.
I agree. I think it looks pretty good.
So, as you know, in every Minecraft world, once you have a house, then you gotta have a place to store your animals. And so that's when we decided we needed a barn. But the thing was, neither of us really knew how to build a barn.
No, it'd be like a rectangle or something.
Yeah, and so this is when we started taking the help from people on YouTube, finding tutorials, and that's when we built this awesome barn. Hello, Mr. Farmer.
We actually took time to learn from the people who actually knew how to do it.
Yes.
It became really great, although it did take us quite a few tries to
Yes, there was a learning curve.
to actually do it well.
Yes, because when it came to a tutorial and recording us building, then we had to, along with memorizing our Latin vocab, we also had to memorize the block patterns and all that sort of thing. And so we probably built this barn like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
All the way over, or different pieces of it at least. It took a lot of effort, and then there were times when the footage didn't save, and so we had to go and do it again, and it ended up being great, obviously. And then we've got this lovely farm area with all of our little farmers doing their thing. It's so fun. But of course, these farmers are really where the trouble started, right? Because once we had a barn and animals, then we needed someone to take care of the animals, and we needed someone to take care of the crops.
It was all a rolling ball from there.
Yes.
Pretty much.
And so then we built our villagers a little house to live in.
We built them a farm because they needed to take care of the plants and animals. But then the farmers needed a place to stay. So we made them a little house, like a little bunk house for them to stay. And then we just kept going. But we definitely found like tutorials and things that other people had built to be inspired by and just to build. Because at the end of the day, that's what our place needed.
Yeah, and we've definitely had a lot of shenanigans with these villagers, because in the beginning, we've always gotten our materials from creative, but we started building all of our things in survival still. So we built this barn in survival, but we also got our villagers in survival. So we had to boat our villagers over here. That was a lot of fun. This guy really wants to trade with me.
They're all
potato.
They're all
coming to trade. I'm sorry, guys. I want this potato. Yeah, so anyway, and from there, it led on to even more ideas. So this building process has really just been a progression of ideas, each idea leading on to the next. So if you're in your world building and you don't know what to build, just think about what you've already built, and maybe that'll give you some ideas on what to build next. when we started building this harbor, that's when things really kicked up a notch.
For sure.
And that's also when we started building in creative instead of just survival. And that was a big change. It was very nice. We decided, instead of focusing on the grinding of collecting materials and that sort of thing, that it would be fun to just focus on the creative side of building and to really just enjoy the process while we were memorizing our Latin vocabulary. And so that way we could focus on grinding the Latin vocab rather than grinding the collecting of materials, because that can take a whole lot of time. We have had other survival worlds that we've built together and that were in survival, and we collected all the materials together, did all the digging in the depths of the mines.
But it definitely took a very long time, and we didn't quite have the same amount of time as before.
Yeah, we just wanted to focus on the creativity, the stories, the building, and having fun with it. And so whenever we started building this area, which is obviously a lot bigger than anything that we had built so far,
Yes.
then what we wanted to do was to create a sort of synthesis of ideas, putting ideas together. And so what we did was we took a lot of different tutorials that we had found, a lot of different pictures and things we found online, and we sort of put them all together, right?
Like made it our own, kind of.
Yeah.
Like used maybe different materials than they did to match what we needed for our harbor, or changed up the design just a little bit to make it like
Yeah,
fit or what we wanted.
exactly.
To make it a better match for what we needed.
What we needed and what our villagers needed, right?
Which brings in the creative aspect of that as well.
Yes, but what I'm excited to show you guys next is our process and how we started building the city, because that was an adventure.
Definitely.
So these townhouses were not in the original plan. Originally, what we had wanted to do was we did want to build a city, but we wanted to build it on the place where the old village was, up on the hill.
Yeah, kind of like revamp the
Yeah.
Minecraft built village houses.
But once we built this harbor, it made a lot more sense to start expanding this way and building the city that way, and then just incorporate the old village. But first we had to start with these townhouses, and it was definitely a process.
Yes, for sure. It took many tries and figuring out how to even do something like this, a lot of studying of what other people had done.
Yes.
And actually, my brother designed this townhouse thing. I just did all the decorations.
Yeah, we
That's
sort of
been our-
found a system of where I would build the main structure and then she would do all the decorations, and that ended up working out really well. But the shape of these buildings themselves, we actually got from a tutorial. The same guy who showed us how to make the harbor shape, he also builds in a very unique and cool style. And so we were starting to learn how to imitate him in that sort of way. It took a lot of different tries to create these, but I think they turned out pretty well.
Agreed.
So just so you guys know that when we say we don't get these buildings right first try every time, this is what we mean. This was our first edition of the city. We just kind of built stuff
It didn't
and
fully
connected
work.
them. We didn't really know what we were doing at all. And then it turned out that they just looked like one big circle of
It
buildings.
was just one giant house instead of a city.
Yeah.
It didn't really work out, and they're huge. Like, they're very, very tall.
They all kind of look the same. They weren't even the same color at the beginning. We kind of had a bunch of different colors. We had no idea what we were doing with the color palettes.
Yeah.
We ended up matching them a little bit later, but even now they all
This
just
is
look
like the 7th rendition of what we even originally had.
Yeah, we had built and rebuilt this many times, destroyed and rebuilt.
So we scrapped it and decided to try something new.
Yes, then my sister decided, hey, you know what would probably be good? Let's actually learn from the masters and see what they're doing and how they actually come up with the stuff that they do.
Because we know it's working.
Yeah,
so
it works. So
figure
how do
out.
they actually come up with great stuff? How did they do that? So she decided to take a deep dive, do a little master study on color palettes and buildings.
So with this one, I pretty much looked up a video of a master builder who built this amazing city, and I just kind of paused it a bunch of times to see actually the patterns in what he did. And so over here I have like the only colors of roof that he did, and it was all outlined in spruce. So it was kind of like this was our little thing that we used to be like, okay, pick a roof, pick a color, what's next?
She created a perfect little palette for us to choose from so that it would always look good. It's amazing.
Exactly. And then over here is like all of the types of walls that he did for the different houses, and like the bottom layer of like the
underneath of the building.
Yeah, exactly.
The foundation.
And so you could just come here, pick a roof, pick a wall, and then be set. And then these were like the roofs, the chimneys that he did. It was just kind of like a pick and go type deal that I made so that we could choose a window, a chimney, a wall, and a roof, and just go with that. So we would always know like kind of what to do and where to go. Mm-hmm. And it worked pretty well, I'd say.
Oh yeah, it certainly did. And this is what I was talking about earlier about the synthesis of ideas. Mm-hmm. She took all the different pieces, and then we could just combine them in however we wanted to, and then it would just create something that was very unique to us, even though we had learned from this master builder.
Exactly.
Which, by the way, all of these things that we're talking about from other people, all these other videos, I'll have them linked in the description so you guys can check them out yourselves if you want to, if you want to learn some as well. And so now let's show them what we came up with based on this palette.
Great.
Before all of these houses in the city were built, they were once an outline.
Mm-hmm. Everything good has an outline.
That's right. It took a lot of preparation and vision to create these things.
Yes.
And we were kind of learning as we started putting this city together that not all houses had to be rectangles. We were learning from these builders that we could pretty much just put any kind of shape down and it would turn into a beautiful house.
It did require some work for the roofs, but once we kind of figured out a way that we like to do that, I think it went fairly well.
Yeah. And you took a lot of time to set down some roads, right?
Yes, so basically what I did with laying out the city is I had to think, okay, where do I want my main street to be, and then where can I put like alleyways to make it not a grid or a pattern. And then I just built kind of funky shapes around that to make like fun houses. And then we worked together to make it to what they look like now.
Yep, take from her palette that she had created. She really took charge in this city. This is like 99% her design. I was just there for the building. It was pretty fun though. We had a lot of fun. And I should point out too that this world that you're looking at right now is not the main one that you actually see. This is actually a second one because we, in order to prepare all of this stuff, we have to build all of this stuff one time before we do the real version. So we've built everything in our world.
At least twice.
At least twice, that's right, yeah. So all of these buildings, this was us designing them. That's why the outlines are here. That's why you don't see them in the main world.
So these aren't actually the ones that were built on camera. These are our tester houses that we had to figure out beforehand.
Yep, so what we would do was we would spend some time designing the houses and putting them together, making sure they look good, and then we would decide who was going to build what parts of it, and then we would build them together, and it was a lot of fun.
It was.
One last piece of the puzzle to this building journey we've been on is connecting the dots. Not everything we have done has been from tutorials, but then sometimes we found these areas that were open, like this whole area was blank.
Just a field with a bunch
just
of
a field
cabins.
connecting our harbor to our farm, and so we had to do a little brainstorming to figure out what would be the best thing to go in here.
I personally love making forests, so I was like,
she was very excited to make this forest.
What if we make a giant forest?
What if we make a forest? Yeah, and a pond. Yes, and so it's been a lot of fun.
And it worked.
And I think doing these little things like putting some flowers and connecting paths like this really makes the whole world come together and feel like
It's one big thing.
It's all one big thing. Yeah.
Exactly.
Super fun.
Mm-hmm.
But this whole building journey has been a lot of fun. It's been super fun to memorize our vocab while we contribute to this. So now all these little things that we've built are all connected to Latin vocab in my mind now. But I hope you guys have enjoyed this little behind the scenes tour.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope you guys are doing well, memorizing your vocab. Thank you guys for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Bye.